I wasn't necessarily like connecting with them as hard because they grew up in like a full traditional Asian household with 2 Asian parents. Like, you gotta listen to this song, and it was like the UKF page or whatever like that, you know what I mean? And then it landed on an Excision song in the playlist, and it was a rap. I was like, what is this? Dack Janiels I landed on pretty early, and I already had the accounts for. It was honestly just like a joke thing that I was like, this is my Instagram name, and here's gonna be my backup SoundCloud. And then in my class, I was fortunate, like Nightmare and, you know, Slander guys were in my class. So I got really lucky being around like the most like creative minds.
Hi, this is Lauren Engel of Sidewalk Talk. Today I'm here with Dack Janiels.
The one and only.
So you were born outside of San Francisco?
Yeah.
Where?
I grew up in an area called Belmont.
Okay.
It's like 15 minutes from the San Francisco airport.
Yeah.
Little suburb type town.
Were your parents like born in the US or?
Yeah, so my dad was born in San Jose, and which is like pretty close, and then my mom's actually from Maryland. So
oh wow.
We went there like a lot, like when I was like a little kid, but most of my time was just San Francisco, you know. So your grandparents moved to the US, or like how many? Well, you've been here your family's been here a lot of generations, right? Yeah, so my grandmother on my dad's side immigrated from Hiroshima, Japan. And then my mom's family was all from like Ireland, but I think they're all like my parents like second generation. Yeah. So you didn't really like grow up kind of, but how much of like the cultures did they bring into your growing up? I think on my dad's side, I did a lot of the Asian cultural stuff growing up, like, you know, like Japanese New Year and all this stuff. And then on my mom's, it was a little more disconnected just because like her family was so far away. I wasn't necessarily like hanging out with all of them every single day, you know what I mean? So I think my dad's side is a little bit more influenced in terms of culturally, you know. Do you still have a bunch of family back in those areas? So I still have family in Japan. No, I've never been able to visit them before though, but they've come out here and stuff, you know. Yeah. So what do your parents do? My dad works in TV media, and he distributes like content for like international territories like Middle East and Asia. So he's always on the road. Like I think he was just in like Istanbul last week. And then my mom works at an elementary school. So. Oh, where do you think you got your creative side from? Mostly from your dad, right? Yeah, my mom was an artist though, so she's like a classically trained like painter and stuff. So growing up, she always like supported me to. I skateboarded my entire life growing up, so skating and kind of arts go all hand in hand. So she loved it. Like the fact when I started making music and stuff, it was kind of like an extension of her art upbringing, you know. What kind of music did they play in the house growing up? My dad was like an old R&B and soul fan, so I grew up on a lot of that type stuff, and my mom was like an old classic rock fan, so like Sting and like AC/DC and shit, you know. Did you play like instruments or? Yeah, so I played guitar for like 7 years. I honestly was just never that good at it. So I played in a band for a little bit, but I was always the one who was like slacking the most. And I think that's what drove me for music production when I finally like started doing something that I could connect with a little more, and that wasn't as straining on me for like the physical ability of like playing frets on a guitar. It really benefited me in that way, you know what I mean? Yeah. Actually, this is something that I asked a lot of like mixed race people, but did you ever have like culture identity problems or anything? A little bit, because I feel like growing up, there's a huge Asian population in San Francisco. Yeah. So I did have a lot of like Asian friends growing up, but I always felt like I wasn't necessarily like connecting with them as hard because they grew up in like a full traditional Asian household with 2 Asian parents. And then on my mom's side, with her being white, it's like, it's always in between. So I always like identified as like half. I think the term's like hapa. Yeah. Like half. Were there a lot of hapas like? So there weren't that many like when you were growing up? Not as many half Japanese, but there's a lot of like half Chinese and half like Korean and stuff like that. Oh, so you weren't like the only one? No. Yeah. Not by any means like that. Yeah. That's cool though. Wait, so how did you get into skateboarding? It's weird. Like I remember I got like a baseball mitt for my birthday from like an aunt, and it was the wrong hand because I'm left-handed. So I went to the store to go return it. They didn't have a left-handed glove at the store at the time, and I bought like a shitty whatever like Looney Tunes skateboard. I think I was like 4. You know what I mean? My parents just like returned it. And then from there is a wrap. I remember just going to the local skate park as a kid and just seeing, you know, in San Francisco it's such a big culture for it, so you'd see like pros there all the time, and seeing guys like David Gravett and Andrew Lange is a pro skater from my hometown, like seeing those guys every day at the parks and stuff just made me want to do it and be like them, you know?
And you were competitive, right?
Yeah, I mean, I skated for a shop that I worked at called Society in the Bay, and I filmed with them. And then when I moved to LA, I was kind of filming with the Baker guys. My co-founder, 40 Ounce Colt, was Hami. He was sponsored by Baker and Shake Junt and all them. So I got the fortunate opportunity of being able to go film with them and stuff. But I tore my ACL when I was like 17, so that was kind of a wrap after that, you know what I mean?
And was that something that you were doing like every day after school? Like
Oh yeah. I mean, I went to continuation school because I got kicked out of high school.
Wasn't it like a Christian school?
Yeah, I went to a Christian school called St. Francis up in near San Jose, and I got kicked out of there when I was like 15.
Are your parents religious?
My mom was like Catholic growing up. I think she's kind of like shifted out of that being like such a central focus because my dad's like parents are Buddhist. And they kind of let me just kind of form my own decisions, but yeah, I don't think it really influenced me too much because they kind of just let me do my own thing. And
yeah, but why did they send you to a Christian school? That's like not common, right, in the US?
Not super common, but honestly, a lot of times it's like the private school is considered to be like more like academic or whatever like that, and they thought it was the best choice. But unfortunately for me, I was just surrounded by a bunch of like the area it was in was like super affluent, so I was surrounded by a bunch of kids I didn't relate with. No one skated there, and if you didn't play sports, you were just kind of like the odd one out. So I didn't fit in there from the beginning. So when I got kicked out, it was kind of a blessing in disguise.
Why were you kicked out?
They thought I was selling drugs.
Oh.
I mean, I was smoking a shit ton of weed, but I wasn't like, you know, moving packs back then, you know. So like what happened after? So I went to this continuation school called Summit, where it was super tight. It was like an accelerated program. I finished my class. I went to school like 10 a.m. and finished at like 1. And then I went straight to my job at the skate shop every day afterwards, or went skating. So it wasn't a tough deal, you know what I mean?
Did you like school?
Nah.
You just hate
I went to college briefly after high school, and it just really wasn't my thing. I went for graphic design as kind of like a cop-out because I was like pretty well versed in Photoshop, but I'm not a drawer or an artist by any means. So I don't know, when I found Icon, the music school, I just thought that might just be a better fit because I loved making music at the time so much.
Actually, why did you decide to go to college if you just didn't even, did your parents push you to get
They did want me to go for that, and that's kind of like the traditional route that like their families pushed for when they were younger, you know what I mean? But at the end of the day, when I came to them and showed them that like this is something, for music at least, I was excelling in, rather than being the C and D student I was growing up, it was kind of a cool thing for them because they got to see their son like excelling in something for the first time, you know? Yeah.
So what kind of careers did you have at that point that you had in mind?
Yeah, so I have one of my really good buddies who was like the first person to start hooking me up with like skate gear. His name's Flip Nasty. He started a really big skate sunglass company called Happy Hour, and I really wanted to work with them for a while. I was always like helping them with like music promotion because when I first moved to LA, I was like pretty well connected with a lot of music people. So I thought that might be kind of a route to go. And then alternatively, I just like was always into fashion, so I wanted to get my toes in that, whether that was going to work in sales or marketing for someone, you know?
And back then you were listening to like a Marilyn Manson, right? Yeah,
I mean, my music tastes growing up were so funny. Like, I had like a full solid 2 years where I like almost only listened to like 3 6 Mafia, and then a lot of like Bay Area rap, like Andre Nicotina. But like in term with that, I felt like I really connected with like that hardcore like gangster rap shit, but also like punk rock went hand in hand with that, you know? And that's kind of the way I look at like SoundCloud rap now. It's like the new generation of punk rock. So being able to like have that like teen angst type thing is something I always wanted to bring to my music anyway, you know?
Were you ever in a band?
Yeah, briefly. I like played in one with like some friends when I was like in middle school and like early high school, but just was never really that good, you know? And they'd always be like, Taryn, you missed this chord or like whatever. So I kind of just let them do their own thing and crush it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And one of my buddies who I was in the band with still to this day is like involved in the San Francisco the punk and hardcore scene pretty hard.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember who showed you Excision?
I remember like when friends started first getting cars, like they would get like sound systems, like subwoofers in their car and stuff. And it was like a fool from my school, I think his name was Ryan. I haven't talked to him in years, but yeah, he like was the first one that I knew that had like the really ballin' system, and he was like, you gotta listen to this song. And it was like the UKF page or whatever like that, you know what I mean? And then it landed on an Excision song in the playlist, and it was a rap. I was like, what is this?
And then did you decide to like immediately buy, what software were you using back then?
So I like downloaded a cracked copy of Ableton originally, and at the time like I was seeing a lot of guys using Reason too, so I ended up getting both within the same year and just kind of not really knowing what I was doing and self-teaching. And then I just went back to Ableton after a little while just because that's like the one I feel most comfortable on.
How many years ago was this?
So 16, 24 now, 8 years.
Yeah. So did you have a moniker? A different
Yeah, I've had so many ones. I had like Dr. Lean was one. Tanner Chung, just my name, was one. But yeah, at Dack Janiels I landed on pretty early, and I already had the accounts for. It was honestly just like a joke thing that I was like, this is my Instagram name and here's gonna be my backup SoundCloud. And then just fucking landed on it, you know? I was like, I just want to run with this, you know?
But how did you think of it? Like, do you want it to be like based on, like, did you want to do the letter switch and that was just like a
Yeah,
cool
I mean,
idea?
definitely seeing Funtcase was like a big inspiration because he's like one of my favorite artists, and I remember buying like his Doom DP and all of his old Circus record releases, and he was just always one of my favorites. But that combined with the fact that like I would work at my skate shop, and there's like a little like desk drawer like at the cashier's register, and I would just bring in like a flask of Jack Daniels or Jim Beam every day. So the name, like the second Instagram came out, it was like a ton of skaters on it and shit, and everyone had these like funny ass names on it, and I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna do Dack Janiels. So it definitely started from my Instagram name, and I was like, all right, I'll make the SoundCloud and shit, you know?
And then I guess while you were still in college, that's when you were like still working on music, right? Or?
Yeah, so I like started making music in high school, and I was like, okay. Then I went to college, and I started doing it, like taking it way more seriously on my free time. And then I went to Icon and college concurrently at the same time. And once the workload on the both sides just like became too overwhelming, I was like, all right, I just want to pick one or the other, and then running with music.
What was your career at the point when you joined Icon?
I was doing like freelance video editing, pretty much.
Oh, so you didn't even like have a music fan base?
Not at all. Not at all. When I went to Icon, I think I had like a couple like blog posts that like covered my music, like this song slaps, but it was never anything that like got such a great reception that I really thought it was something serious that I could take seriously, you know? It wasn't really until I went to Icon and started like really honing in on making the quality of my music like as good as it can be that I was like, oh shit, I want to try to like really brand this and make it like a career path, you know?
But how did you even find out about Icon? Because this was like, not too many notable people were before you, right? Yeah,
so the number one person I saw was Protohype, and Max is like a really good friend of mine now. We did a collab together when we were on tour in Australia earlier this year, and he's like one of my best friends, so it's crazy to see like he was the one that I was listening to his music all the time. And then like I wanted to go to a place that like had a dubstep track record or something, you know what I mean? Rather than going somewhere that's just like general music production or whatever, you know? So Protohype was like really the main influence to go there.
Yeah.
And then in my class I was fortunate, like NGHTMRE and, you know, Slander guys were in my class. So I got really lucky being around like the most like creative minds, you know?
But why did you want to study music? Like, could you not just learn it yourself, or? Yeah,
and I think that that's like an interesting thing that varies person to person. For me, I almost needed like confirmation that a lot of the stuff I was doing was right, and I never had resources as like at my reach as like Icon, you know? So I think for some people, like they just got it and they figure it out, and like right now online resources are so much doper than they were 8 years ago when I was learning how to produce, when there was like 10 YouTube tutorials on how to make dubstep. Versus now it's like you go online and there's a million tutorials of people who like making the craziest sounds ever. So for me it was like there wasn't really many options, and like I really wanted to go to music school just to get some sort of certification stuff to really like show that I have learn the skill base, I think, you know?
And what happened after?
It's crazy. So I actually started getting my first booking, it's like right towards the end of Icon.
Oh, so you were like putting out a ton of music?
Yeah, I was putting out music while I was going to Icon, and there was a project for like our second semester there where it was like, do a self-release, get artwork made, and I wasn't even like fully committed to doing Janiels, but I just used that as kind of like my outlet to put it out, and it ended up getting covered by a bunch of blogs and stuff like that, and got like a really good reception that I was like, damn, I should just run with this for as long as I can, you know?
So you were sending it to all these blogs?
Yeah, so that was my main way of like promoting at the time. Like I had a buddy who worked for This Song Slaps that I went to college with, and I would just hit him up and say, hey man, can you help like send this out to your network and see if we can get any coverage? And this was before SoundCloud reposts, really before like even the YouTube premieres were like as accessible as they are for me now. So that was just kind of my way of like grassroots getting the music out. And then did you do like other jobs in the meantime? I did stuff here and there. Still was doing some freelance video editing. Once I went to Icon, I really focused on like mixing and mastering, so I started helping people out and doing mixing and mastering, especially people who were like more in their starting point than I was at the time, and like helping them like with like just general consultations on their music. And that's something I still do this day. Like if a kid hits me up and like I like their stuff and there's like room for growth, I'll like help them out with some tutoring sessions. Just because I feel like that's like the best way to help the next generation of artists, you know? Because like if you can help one kid make their track crack and they have a little bit more confidence to make more music like that, that to me is just more fire music I can add to my set. Yeah. You know? Yeah, that's so cool. That's so cool though that you can do like graphic design, like video editing, like you pretty much like yeah, I mean all digital media shit was
you don't even
like,
need to hire anyone.
Well, and that's the funny thing is I do all the artwork for 40 Ounce Cult. Like even when we made the fake the parody anti-rhythm or anti-social logo for the anti-rhythm shit, I didn't want to make it like the same exact as the logo, so like I just sat down and just do all that shit. So all of our designs I've just done myself in-house. And then so after you graduated, and then you just started getting like a lot of bookings for music, or like what was it? Yeah, like I got signed with like a management that did Riot 10, and he was like someone I was following pretty hard with his trap days, and I was really fortunate. They just really started plugging me on support dates for him and a lot of other guys, and it really helped me get my feet in the ground to be like, oh sick, I played this market, I played Houston, I played Paris when I was like 19 years old. And kind of get my feet wet, you know what I mean? Yeah, I wouldn't say like it was like explosive, like boom, I'm like touring, doing all these fat dates, but I was definitely playing a lot. I mean, I remember my first year out at it, I probably did like 30, 40 shows just then, you know? So that was like your full-time job? Yeah, and that's what turned into like my main source of income, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then, well, what year did 40 Ounce start? I think we started 40 Ounce like 3 years ago. I was really inspired by like Baker skateboards and Shake Giant. That was the kind of stuff that I looked up to when I was a kid, like seeing these skaters who would like go super hard on the board and then also go super hard partying. I just like love the sex, drugs, rock and roll aspect of it, you know? So I just really wanted to make something that was inspired by that, because there's no like genuine skate connection between that and EDM before. If anything, it was kind of like a gimmick, you know what I mean? Like the same way you see like a Macy's ad with like some dude on a skateboard and it kind of looks cringy. I feel like skating was just always kind of like a novelty involved, or like, I mean, you'll see like a music video and someone's like just skating in the back or whatever like that. But for me, it was really easy to just like connect something that I actually did and worked in that industry for so long. My co-founder was like heavily involved. Even up until like 2 years ago, like Hami used to work at Supra, the footwear company, as a team manager. So we've always kept ourselves like really, really close to that industry as much as we can, you know? Oh shit. Oh my gosh. Me and Beth on Sidewalk talk. Literally. Oh my god, if we walked like a bit faster, that car could not have stopped. Yeah. How did you come up with Dack Squad? Dude, so there's my favorite rapper ever is Chief Keef. And his producer was Young Chop, and on every single one of like the Chief Keef tracks with him, at the beginning it would say, Chop Squad, Chop Squad. And I started using the Dack Squad thing as like a tag on my rap production stuff. Because I used to produce rap beats for a couple guys on Chief's label Glow Gang. I worked with the Glow Gang twins and Lil Flash. and I just wanted to have a producer tag because it's so common in hip hop. Just you want to make your marks, like the producer thing known.
Yeah.
And then after I did it, I was like, damn, it's actually pretty tight.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna keep doing this. You know what I mean?
What do you love about Chief Keef and Gucci Mane?
I like how raw they are. Like, I think it's really cool seeing guys who like not only were like really pioneers of a genre like trap for them or drill for Chief Keef, but like seeing people who are like so genuine that you can like hear it out in their music. Like Chief Keef had like a really rough upbringing, you know, I mean, like police shooting at him and shit, and he's like had so many friends like taken from him and stuff like that. And I think I just like, so I see like the method to the madness with him, and I almost like, I'm just really respect that someone can like come out of, you know, a really where all the cards are stacked against him and come out on top and do his thing, you know?
Yeah. How did the upcoming song with Famous Dex come about?
So his one of his producers, Akachi, and me have been following each other for like days and days and days, like, you know, since last year. And we always like each other's posts, and like I always listen to his stuff, and randomly hit me on the DM and he was like, yo, let's get on a fucking collab, dude. And I was like, dude, I'm so down. So he started up a track and he sent me over some stems, and I loved the intro, and I flexed and did the rhythm thing on it. And we were thinking of vocalists for it, and he just like saw it over the vocal and was like, yo man, I think that this is gonna be the one that'll fit, and it ended up fitting out perfectly. Oh, wow. And Dax is like one of my favorite Chicago rappers too, so it was like a dream come true pretty much for me, you know?
Is there a date or?
No, I mean, we just finished it up, and we're gonna figure out exactly what the best outlet for it is, whether that's sending it to one of the big labels, or if we want to do an internal release with 40-ounce Colt and you know, kind of keep it internal. But yeah, I'm really excited to see where it goes, you know what I mean?
How would you say your music has changed since the early songs you made?
I think with the early songs, like, I was really focused on like making everyone better than the next. So I've never really like landed on a sound that I just like kept using on songs. I just feel like my sound design is very specific, and I always make new sounds for each track. So early on, it was a lot of like learning still, you know what I mean? Like, oh, this works, this doesn't, this sounds too generic or whatever. And now I'm at a point where I take that into account every single time I write a track. I'm like, okay, I don't want this to sound like another rinse of a song I made 6 months ago. I want this to be its own look, you know what I mean? I think for me, it's just more about maximizing like the new audience members coming in, or people who may have heard one song from me. I want them to be able to hear the next one and be like, this is something completely different. It's a good vibe, but it's still a Dack Janiels track. You know what I mean?
How would you say you've grown as a person compared to when you were younger?
I mean, I like was just a little shit growing up. I was always like getting in trouble, wasn't really great at school, and I was just dealing with a lot of like, I guess like social anxiety from being like bullied and stuff growing up, because I was always kind of the odd one out. And for me now, I think that like I've really gotten like a good grip on who I am as a person, like what I need to like be healthy and feel my best and work my best. So I think early on, like especially when music, like when I first started doing it, I was just all over the place, constantly stressed out. I got arrested when I was 17, and that for me was like a really, really big indicator of like, I really need to like grow into a better person than I'm being right now, you know? And that in turn just really gave me motivation to like stay out of trouble and focus on my craft. And I think when I started out making music, it was really easy to get lost in like, oh, I need to work on this, and I need to go out every night, and I need to go this thing and have a drink with this person. Now it's like, I take that step back and say, oh, do I really need to do this, or should I go to my studio and work on music all night, you know?
Right. Yeah. What would you say have been your biggest challenges so far? Could be in your personal life.
For me, like I haven't really talked about this a lot, but like I like still suffer from like pretty bad anxiety when I travel. I think it's combination between just like being totally out of control with like flight delay and this and that, and just being surrounded by cops wherever you go. So early on, like that was like I would go travel for shows and just not eat, because like that's how it affected me anxiety wise. It would just make my stomach all tight. So that was like my biggest challenge I've like dealt with up until like this past year, where I've kind of been able to get a grip on it and figure out like what I need to eat and how much I need to sleep, and like do this just to like feel good, you know? Other than that, I think the other challenge is like just staying motivated when like there's like it's really easy to see other people like killing it, or people you don't think might not deserve it or whatever like that. And I just look at it now a lot different than I used to at the beginning, where I was like, why isn't my music like that or like that? And now it's just motivation for me to be like, I just need to be the best person I am, you know what I mean? And my time will come, you know?
Yeah. Actually, for both of those things, like, how did you, like, what was the turning point? Was it something that you read, or like...
Turning point for my
like
anxiety?
Advice for people, like, who are going through the same thing?
Yeah, I mean, for me, I woke up and I was like 20 pounds underweight. I like went to the doctor and they were just telling me, they're like, yeah, man, you're just like not like as healthy as you should be, you know? And I think the best advice is, like, if you're feeling that way, dude, like, go get a professional opinion. I ended up going to a neurologist just to, like, make sure my brain was all good, you know what I mean? And then just for motivation stuff, I think just, like, don't get too caught up in listening to other people's shit and, like, feeling like you need to be like that. Because as much as I tell people to, like, take and learn things from listening to other people's music, I think it's really easy for people to take that meaning as, like, oh, I need to, like, make a song just like Sudden Death or something like that, you know? Where, like, Sudden Death is doing his own thing incredibly well. No one else will be another Sudden Death, you know what I mean? If you keep yourself in that mindset, you'll always be a second rate, you know?
Yeah. What does love mean to you?
Love to me means, I think it's like unconditionally being there to support someone. I'm really lucky. I've been with my girlfriend for a really long time, and she's like the most supportive of my shit, and I just feel the love every day whenever, like, I'm super down or I think a track sucks and I don't want to work on it anymore. I have someone there to be there to, like, hold me up and pick me up. And for me to be able to reciprocate that, I try to show love to every single person I meet, where, like, if someone comes to my show and they're gonna spend the money, wear my merch, and, like, take that time out of their day to go support, that to me, like, I have to reciprocate that with, like, genuine love for them and knowing that they're, like, helping me be able to do what I do, you know?
What do you love about your girlfriend's personality?
I love the fact of how similar we are, but we're also, like, very different. Like, we both do a lot of the same stuff, both drink vodka, we both, you know, we both like the same liquors, we both smoke weed, we fucking, you know what I mean? But at the same time, having someone that, like, gets me and knows when, like, I'm not doing great on my day, and she can just, like, pick up on that, and she can be around me to, like, really help support me or like that. I think that to me is my favorite quality about her. Yeah. Rather than kind of, like, not being in the know about that or not being understanding, and we, like, would fight because my head's all messed up. She'll be the one to be like, take a breath, everything's gonna be okay. You know what I mean? Yeah.
Last question. What do you want to be remembered for?
I think I want to be remembered for, more than anything, is, like, not just being, like, a dubstep DJ. That's part of the reason why I'm, like, so infatuated with, like, doing this fashion thing and doing 40 Ounce Cult, is because I want to be looked at more of, like, a cultural icon or, like, a tastemaker. Because I feel like I have such a good ear for being able to, like, see kids who have such raw talent and such potential, that, like, as if that can motivate even one kid to say, hey, I want to do this, and then he can use that motivation to make his dreams manifest. I want to be known for being someone who, like, inspires like that, you know?
Yeah, I love that. This is awesome. Thank you so much.
Oh yeah, it's a fucking honor, dude. Thanks so much.
Bye.